Having keyboards in your classroom is a wonderful resource that your students will love. They will be able to improve their performance skills as well as their composing skills. But how do we manage our classroom? How do we manage the keyboards, and what are the tricks and tips that you need to know if you're a new teacher to the profession or just getting keyboards into your classroom? Hi, I'm Rachel Hardman and this is Passionate About Music Education, and in this video I'm going to share with you how I use keyboards in my classroom and some great strategies that you can implement. One of the first considerations you need to make when you're equipping your room with keyboards is the actual physical space of the room. We would all love to have that perfect piano lab with perfect stands and full-size keyboards, but in reality for many of us teaching general music, particularly at middle school, this isn't a reality. So we have to make it work the best that we can. That means that sometimes we have to have keyboards on tables rather than on keyboard stands. Although that's not ideal, it does mean that your room has some form of flexibility.
Here's one of the rows of keyboards set up in my room, and you can see that they're all fairly standardized with the chair, the keyboard and the two headphones. So if we come in a bit closer to this keyboard, and I use two headphones. I like these bigger ones. These Behringer ones were quite a good deal on Amazon. So this is the back of the keyboard, and I always have a splitter so that you can have two headphones running at the same time so that students can share. They like to show each other their work even if they're working individually. As you can see, the headphones always come in two parts. These particular headphones, and they're quite popular, found this over the last 5 years, have the small jack and then the big jack. Always have some of those spare when you order, so that when these go missing you've got some replaceable and you can still use your headphones. The other great thing about headphone splitters is that you can actually add another set of splitters so that you could have maybe 3 or 4 people all with headphones on the keyboard, especially if you want to do bigger group work. I always think it's really important that if you want your keyboards to last and work well, because they're not the cheapest equipment to buy, you have to teach students procedure. So my students will always set the keyboards back up this way that they find them. So they'll have the headphones on the side, the keyboard diagram in the center, and the keyboard will be turned off. Watch out for headphone cables. Sometimes they'll get caught here and can pull up keys. So and at the end, this keyboard's not so bad because it's not so high up, but the old ones used to come really high up about this bit. So watch out for things like that. That's where damage can happen. If you have really long headphones or long cables at the back, you could of course tie them so that they don't come out so long, so there's a bit less loose wiring. But something to watch out for and to talk to the students about so they understand to be careful that they don't catch their wires under there. I always encourage my students not to stand up with headphones. As you can see, I have a keyboard diagram on the stand. I don't write them on the keys, particularly for middle and high school students, because I teach them the musical notes. Another thing to consider is your extension cables, making sure that they're pushed right to the back of any desk space and that they're tidy, so you've got nice health and safety. Sometimes that's not quite so easy. This place was easy because I could plug one keyboard in and then just have the extension cable because I don't have enough plug sockets. But you do need to kind of think about your extension cables and how you're going to lay out your room. That really does make a big impact on the space you use and how you design your room.
Never be afraid to redesign your classroom. What you start with in terms of how you lay out your keyboards might not actually work once you've got the students in there actively working in the space. And that's perfectly normal. Once your room's set up, it's really important that you have clear expectations for the students to follow on how you want the keyboards to be used. This encourages students to take ownership of the equipment and to look after it and leave it in a good state. Some of my expectations are: don't stand up with headphones. 1, it's dangerous, and 2, they can catch the cable on the end of the key. That they're not allowed to stand up with headphones, they're not allowed to pass headphones along the aisle, that they must turn the keyboards off at the end of the lesson and put the headphones tidy. Whatever expectation you put in place, keep that consistent so that they always know that this is how the room is left, this is how we use the equipment. And by having that clear expectation, you'll find that your keyboards last longer. My other bit of advice in terms of keyboard layout is be careful not to have keyboards face to face, because you'll find that once they're face to face, students like to pull out the headphone sockets on each other, and you'll get that sort of noise coming out into the classroom, which is fine, but it's these kind of things that you need to think about that limits behaviour management. And the last consideration is, do you go down a traditional keyboard route or do you go down a MIDI keyboard? And that really depends on how you're going to use the keyboards in your classroom. If your keyboards are going to be just connected to computer software and technology, then lots of people will choose the MIDI keyboard. If you want the ability to use a keyboard for composing or for performing or to use in some ensemble work, then a traditional keyboard would give you more options. I hope this introductory video on how to lay out your room when using the keyboards has given you some ideas for going forward. If you'd like me to go into this in more detail or would like any more information, please feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to make more videos on how to set up your room. This is Passionate About Music Education. I'm Rachel Hardman. I hope to see you here again soon.